Man believes he rules the world, yet cannot rule his own loins. This is the great contradiction of the modern male. He may conquer nations, dominate markets, build empires in the digital ether, yet when a beautiful woman enters the room, his entire being trembles. His thoughts shift, his purpose bends, he forgets his mission. For all the talk of freedom, independence, and masculinity, most men remain slaves, not to tyrants or systems, but to a much older master, lust. Friedrich Nietzsche, though rarely quoted in the realm of male desire, spoke volumes through his critique of weakness, herd mentality, and the inability of modern man to elevate himself beyond the flesh. In Nietzsche's view, unchecked desire is not just a distraction, it is bondage. It is the chain that keeps man from becoming the higher version of himself. Lust, when ungoverned, reduces the will to ascend into a pitiful need to be satisfied. It seduces man not through pleasure alone, but by convincing him that indulgence is liberation. Nietzsche, like a surgeon of the soul, would slice through this illusion with brutal clarity. What you call love, what you call lust, is often nothing more than your spiritual weakness wearing perfume. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy lies a concept that most men have never truly understood: the will to power. It is not the thirst for domination over others, as is often misinterpreted, but the drive to master oneself, to impose order upon chaos, to rise above one's lower instincts. It is the spiritual energy that pushes a man to create, to suffer, to overcome. Yet most men have traded this higher will for a lesser god, the will to pleasure. Where the will to power demands discipline, confrontation, and pain, the will to pleasure whispers comfort, ease, and surrender. Lust, in this context, is not just about sex, it is about the dissolution of man's inner fire. It is the invitation to become soft, to become reactive, to be ruled. In chasing the next woman, the next body, the next high, man dilutes his purpose. He leaks his power through fleeting orgasms and emotional dependence. The man who is ruled by lust is no longer the captain of his soul. He is the addict pretending to be the alpha. More often than not, lust becomes a hiding place. It is the coward's drug. Rather than face the discomfort of growth, the silence of solitude, the pressure of legacy, the terror of mortality, most men seek the instant balm of feminine validation. Nietzsche, who saw suffering as essential to greatness, would find today's hookup culture repulsive, not because it's immoral, but because it's weak. It reveals a generation of men who would rather scroll for stimulation than sit with themselves. They fear the inner void, and so they fill it with flesh. But as he wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Most men no longer have a why. They have only a who. The next woman, the next conquest, the next distraction. Sexual indulgence becomes a way to avoid building anything lasting. They don't build empires, they build fantasies. And in doing so, they escape the pain that forges character. Lust, then, is not rebellion. It is retreat. Perhaps Nietzsche's most subtle but searing insight comes when observing what happens when man puts woman above himself. In today's romantic idealism, men are taught to chase, to prove, to win her over, as if she were the goal. But Nietzsche would warn that any man who idolizes a woman has already placed himself beneath her. He has committed spiritual treason. Instead of seeing woman as a complement to his path, he sees her as the path. He worships the feminine as his source of fulfillment, not his mirror of it. And so, she becomes his ruler. She dictates his worth. His confidence depends on her approval. His ambition becomes shaped by her acceptance. The same man who quotes Nietzsche about power and self-overcoming becomes a beggar when in her presence. Romanticism, in Nietzsche's eyes, often masks deep inner weakness, the inability to stand alone. A man who turns a woman into his savior is not in love. He is in surrender. And here lies the cruel paradox. Modern men believe they are free because they have access to sex. They believe that chasing women is a sign of their strength, their agency, their success. But Nietzsche would scoff. He would say, "You are not free. You are caged by your own biology, seduced by a culture that profits from your lust, and enslaved by your need for external validation. You call it masculinity, but it is servitude. You believe you are in control because you initiate. But who truly controls the addict, the drug, or the user?" To Nietzsche, true freedom is not the ability to indulge. It is the power to resist, to say no, to abstain, to delay, to transmute. He would urge men to look in the mirror and ask, "Is my desire sovereign, or is it owned by the image of a woman I can't forget?" Most would discover that their actions, moods, and self-worth are silently governed by the pull of sex. They are not men, they are puppets. In the end, Nietzsche would offer a choice, brutal but liberating. Break the chains, or remain beneath her heel. The chains are not held by her. They are forged by your unmet needs, your undisciplined appetites, your refusal to evolve. Sex is not evil. Woman is not the enemy. But worshipping either, that is where slavery begins. The man who does not master lust will always be mastered by it. He will never create anything beyond himself, because he is always leaking pieces of himself. But the man who overcomes, who reclaims the will to power, who transcends the animal in pursuit of the divine, that man is not just masculine. He is rare, he is dangerous, he is free. To escape the prison of lust, a man must first understand that freedom does not mean indulgence. It means transcendence. In Nietzsche's vision of the Übermensch, the Overman, we find the archetype of the man who has risen above the base instincts of the herd, the man who no longer dances to the rhythm of animal craving. The Overman is not celibate out of fear, nor indulgent out of weakness. He is sovereign. He possesses himself. He uses desire rather than being used by it. In Nietzsche's eyes, lust is not something to be denied in the name of morality, as the religious might insist. Rather, it is something to be transmuted, redirected upward into something greater. The raw sexual energy that pulses through a man is sacred fuel, and yet most men waste it in the gutter of compulsive gratification. But the higher man, the man forged in fire and solitude, understands that sex is not the destination. It is the firewood. It is the hunger that can either enslave him or propel him into legacy, discipline, creation, and power. There is something almost monastic in Nietzsche's reverence for solitude. While the herd clings to others, women, lovers, distractions, the philosopher, the artist, the true warrior retreats into the silence of his own mind. Nietzsche admired the man who could stand alone, who needed no affirmation from the external world to validate his worth. He believed that greatness often emerged from the quiet agony of solitude, and history affirms this. Look to the towering figures of history: Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, Beethoven. These were men not ruled by lust, but by vision. Many of them abstained entirely or practiced a form of unconscious celibacy, not because they rejected women, but because their mission was too great to be diluted by constant desire. In solitude, they found focus. In restraint, they found clarity. And through that stillness, they shaped entire civilizations. The modern man avoids solitude because he is terrified of what he might find there. But Nietzsche would say, it is only in solitude that you meet your higher self and kill the weakest parts of you. Sexual discipline is not about repression, it is about self-possession. In a world where everything is overexposed and easily consumed, bodies, fantasies, dopamine hits, the man who controls his lust becomes magnetic. He stands out not because he seeks attention, but because he radiates something rare: mystery. Women can feel it. Other men respect it, even if they don't understand it. When a man does not need sex, he becomes unpredictable. He is no longer a pawn moved by the queen. He becomes a king without a visible crown, one who cannot be baited, seduced, or emotionally manipulated. Nietzsche despised the herd mentality, the instinct to follow, to blend in, to be led. Most men today follow their erections like sheep to slaughter. They are told what to want, who to chase, and what it means to be a man. But the Nietzschean man, the rare sovereign, steps outside that paradigm. He does not obey lust. He channels it. He uses it to build, to conquer, to create. His detachment is not coldness. It is command. Perhaps one of the most radical shifts Nietzsche would demand of the modern man is to stop seeing women as rewards. She is not a trophy to be earned by performance, nor a prize to be won by compliance. She is a mirror. She reflects back what you are, or what you pretend to be. The man who sees her as a test, not a destination, is the one who remains in control. For him, every seductive glance, every challenge, every emotional whirlwind is simply an opportunity to remain centered, to remain grounded in his own truth. Nietzsche's brand of masculinity is not reactive, but creative. He does not chase, he builds. He does not seduce, he ascends. And in doing so, the woman who is truly feminine will naturally follow. She is drawn to the man who doesn't need her, who doesn't orbit around her, who carries the gravity of his own becoming. When she senses that he is not moved by her body, but only by his own mission, she becomes loyal, not by force, but by awe. In the final analysis, Nietzsche offers not condemnation, but confrontation. He asks the man one brutal question: who rules you? If the answer is lust, then you are not a man. You are a slave wearing the illusion of freedom. But if the answer is self, if the answer is discipline, direction, and destiny, then you have begun the great journey. To desire nothing is not to be hollow. It is to be full, full of purpose, full of clarity, full of untapped power. Lust is noisy, transcendence is silent. Most men will die in the noise, chasing what they never needed. But the Nietzschean man, the one who reclaims his throne by mastering his lower nature, he will die with fire in his eyes and a legacy behind his name. Because he did not spend his life chasing women. He spent it becoming someone they could never forget. The time has come to leave the theory behind. If part 1 exposed the chains of lust and part 2 revealed the path of transcendence, then part 3 must be the roadmap forward. For it is not enough to simply know that you are a slave to desire. Knowledge without action is just decoration. Nietzsche did not write to comfort men. He wrote to disturb them, to shake them from their slumber, to ignite something fierce and divine within. His message to modern men would be simple but violent. Save yourself, or be consumed. The world you live in will not liberate you. It will seduce you, distract you, numb you. It will hand you infinite pleasure and call it power, hand you validation and call it love, but it will never give you the one thing you truly need: sovereignty. That you must take for yourself, and it begins not in rebellion against the world, but in total domination of your lower self. The first commandment in reclaiming your manhood is discipline over indulgence. You must train yourself to delay gratification, not for the sake of denial, but for the cultivation of strength. Your morning must no longer begin with the phone, the screen, the scroll of soft porn dressed up as social media. Your nights must no longer end with ejaculation into nothingness, draining your fire for a moment of escape. Begin to track your energy. Notice how your power rises when you abstain. Notice how your clarity sharpens when you detach from the algorithm of lust. Replace pornography with purpose. Replace chasing women with chasing your potential. The modern man is broken not because he lacks resources, but because he leaks his essence into everything and everyone that flatters his ego. Cut off those leaks. Build containers for your power. A gym, a journal, a business, a craft, a daily ritual. In the absence of lust, greatness begins to rise. Second, you must redefine your relationship with women, not by withdrawing from them in bitterness, but by interacting with them from a place of strength, not need. Stop making women your motivation. Stop placing your self-worth in their approval. Let your mission be your muse. Let your future self, 10 years wiser, richer, stronger, be the man you aim to impress, not the girl on Instagram who wouldn't notice you if you died. Nietzsche would not tell you to hate women. He would tell you to surpass them, not in value, but in focus. Because she is not the enemy. She is the test. She will come to distract you, seduce you, challenge you, heal you. She will mirror back to you your level of discipline, your depth of character. She will reward the man who does not flinch in her presence, who does not dissolve in her warmth. Become that man, not by trying to control her, but by mastering yourself. Remember, women do not follow men who chase them. They follow men who chase the horizon. Third, embrace solitude as sacred. This will feel like death at first. Your ego will scream. Your loneliness will whisper lies. The urge to reach for a woman, a screen, a high, anything will be unbearable. But stay with yourself. It is only in that void that you will meet your true power. Nietzsche revered solitude, not because he was antisocial, but because he knew that only in silence does the soul speak. Do not fear being alone. Fear being dependent. Use your solitude to read the ancient texts, to reflect, to walk, to suffer, to plan, to build. This is where the inner citadel is forged, brick by brick, habit by habit, discipline by discipline. You are not missing out. You are transforming. The herd moves in packs, aimlessly. The sovereign walks alone, intentionally. Let solitude be your furnace. The future version of you is waiting there. Finally, develop a spiritual framework for transmutation. Understand that sexual energy is not a curse. It is a divine force, but it must be channeled. Redirect your arousal into aggression in the gym, into charm and precision in your speech, into strategy in your business, into stillness in your leadership. Sexual energy, when uncontrolled, makes you needy, erratic, obsessed. But when mastered, it makes you magnetic. You walk into rooms differently. You speak with presence. You move with intention. You begin to radiate what others call aura. But it's not magic. It's simply untapped energy that you no longer waste. Read thinkers like Napoleon Hill, who spoke of this transmutation. Read Jung, who taught the integration of the anima, the feminine within, so that you are no longer controlled by it externally. Read Nietzsche, not for quotes, but for confrontation. Let these men be your mentors, not for entertainment, but for evolution. And here lies the final truth. You will not be saved by society. You will not be saved by a woman. You will not be saved by a book or a YouTube video. You must save yourself. You must declare war on your mediocrity. You must refuse to die a slave to your impulses. The world is already filled with soft men, hungry men, simps in disguise who wear chains in the shape of smiles. Don't be one of them. Be the one who walked away. Be the one who went dark and returned as fire. Be the one she couldn't control. Be the one they couldn't predict. And above all, be the one who transcended. The man who conquers lust conquers himself. The man who conquers himself conquers his world. That is the Nietzschean way. That is your path forward. Walk it. Thus remember, we are Indecepta. Becoming Indecepta is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war.